Welcome to 2020. This still isn't advice. I'm still not your advisor. Let's get it. Welcome to a Buck Talk Reddit Mailbag episode. Got our good friend Scotch here with us. He'll keep us safe. Let's jump right in. So you're a married 28-year-old with no debt, probably no credit. You never had a credit card. Should you get one? Your credit card, credit building, credit benefits illiterate. You get conflicting advice from your friends. You're not wealthy, but you got a steady job. Your wife's got a little bit of debt and credit, it sounds like. What should you do? So I was in your position after I graduated college. I'd never had any debt, but I'd never had a credit card. And it's kind of hard to get the credit snowball rolling. So I would definitely go and try to get a card, try to get that started. I would go see what you can get. Can you get signed up for any of those free cards? No annual cost. And if you can't, maybe your wife can. You can get added to one. But it makes a lot of sense to start getting cash back with a credit card. I don't know how you do most of your payments if it's a debit card. Generally, credit cards have a little more protection than debit cards, although debit cards have gotten pretty good. They're not nearly as, risky is the wrong word, but a lot more consumer protections than debit cards than there used to be. But with a credit card, and I personally use the Citi card that just gives you 2% cash back, and I just take that. I don't try to play the points game at all. Everything that you're buying on a debit card or with cash right now, you get an extra 2% off, and you'll start to build your credit. You can just set it up so that every month that credit card gets totally paid from your checking account. You don't have to ever pay any interest on it. That's something I think a lot of people get confused about. You charge something on a credit card, as long as you pay that all off when that statement comes due, you don't end up paying any interest. So that's what you want to do. I think you should definitely start getting credit cards set up. Otherwise, if you ever want to get a mortgage, it's going to be a real big pain. All right, where to park a mortgage down payment before it's used. I have $200K that will be the down payment on a mortgage. We'd like to move pretty soon and are looking now. It's hard to tell since the Bay Area housing market is nuts. I'm in the Bay Area. It is nuts. Could be a month, could be a year. Anyway, I'm looking for a good, safe place to park this large amount of money with the highest interest while still having accessibility. All right, so there's only really a few options where you're going to earn interest but still have accessibility. And the way things are set up today, really putting it into a money market fund is probably your best bet. There's lots of different accounts, and even some that are just like they call themselves high yield savings or high yield checking. And if you look around, I'm sure you'll be able to find an offer that's like slightly higher than what you could get at in a brokerage account, like a Schwab, Vanguard, Fidelity. They all offer money market funds that you can buy that'll pay basically the market rate of interest. Right now it's probably 1.5%. You could probably find like an online bank that's offering temporary rates that are a little higher, especially since you're going to have a big amount to put in. A lot of times that's a requirement that it's 100,000 or something like that to get their higher rate. If you're willing to open a new account at just an online bank, like an Ally or maybe a Citi or a Goldman Sachs, you could probably get a little bit more than 1.5%. But like my own personal emergency fund, I just keep in a money market fund at Charles Schwab. So CDs you can mess around with. It doesn't even seem like they're yielding more than money market funds today. And a lot of times there's penalties for getting out of them. So if you did need the money in a month, you might not end up getting any interest at all. You could look at like a treasury bill. Those are yielding about the same as CDs, but it sounds like that's a little more work, a little more confusing than what you're looking for. So I would just look for either a high yield savings or checking or a money market fund, which again you could get at any type of brokerage. Are Roth IRA contributions based on when you worked or when you were paid? Since a coworker called in sick last minute, I picked up a shift on 12/30/2019 and will only be paid for that work on the 14th of 2020 this month. When I make my Roth IRA contribution, should I count that pay in 2019 or 2020? I wasn't sure whether I should count it based on when the work was performed or when the pay was issued. If it's relevant, I just received my W-2 for 2019 and didn't include the pay from that shift. Thanks for your time. So it might not even matter. It really only matters if you're making a contribution for 2019 and you don't have enough earned income for it. So assuming you're not over any of the caps, doesn't sound like you are, you can make any amount of contribution into a Roth IRA up until the tax filing deadline, or until you file your taxes the next year. So you can actually contribute any amount up to the limit, probably $6,000 for you, into your Roth for 2019. You could do that all now, even if you didn't put any in. Most accounts, when you put it in, they ask you, if you do it up until April 15th of a year, they ask you if you want to make it for this year, being 2020, or last year, 2019. And generally, it makes sense to go up to the cap of the prior year to leave yourself more flexibility for 2020. But since a Roth doesn't affect your taxes at all, the only way it could matter is, let's say you had $5,000 of earned income in 2019. Well, then that's the only amount you're allowed to put in to the Roth IRA in 2019. If you earned an extra $500 in this shift and it was earned income for 2019, then you could go from 5,000 to 5,500. But what's going to matter, I gotta think, to the IRS is when you actually get taxed on it. So when it hits your earnings is going to be when you're allowed to make the contribution or not. But it doesn't, unless you made less than the earnings cap, $6,000. There's no reason why you wouldn't be able to put it in there.